Hey, what's up guys? Today I thought I would do something a little bit different because I love going to cinema. It's what I do, like, even more than reading books. Like, I just love going to see like as many films as I can as soon as they come out. So today I thought I would just talk about all of the movies that I watched in February in the cinema. So these are all quite new releases. Obviously this changes depending on what country you're in. Like, I know a few of these came out in America back in like 2019, but in the UK all of these came out in February 2020. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe, and my book wrap up will be coming up this week as well. But I was actually more excited to do this one just because it's something new and different, so I hope you enjoy. So the first movie that I watched in February 2020 was The Personal History of David Copperfield. This is starring Dev Patel as David Copperfield and is based on the Charles Dickens book of the same name. It was a comedy drama and it just follows the character of David Copperfield from childhood right up until adulthood. So the characters in this were all very, very quirky and over the top, and the actors have done a really good job. I loved like the costumes and the time period. Like, I just really love this entire, kind of era. That's why I love like classic books. I think it's just really interesting. The only thing that annoyed me about this movie, not really annoyed, but like impacted my enjoyment, was that it was very, very rushed. So the David Copperfield book is very long, and instead of, well, I'm sure they did cut some stuff. I've not personally read it, but I feel like they could have cut more because it was very rushed at points. It kind of flew from like plot point to plot point. There was a lot of time skips, and I just felt like if we'd settled down in like some certain years a little bit more, then we would have more of a feel for the characters. Whereas I felt like there was, I don't want to spoil things, but there was one plot point that just came out of nowhere and I just wasn't interested, and it was like kind of a main climax, but I just felt like that character that it involved really hadn't been that well developed. So I don't know, I just think it was a little bit too rushed, but overall I did really enjoy it. Next, I seen Birds of Prey, and I really don't understand the whole controversy about this movie, to be honest. I liked it, but it wasn't one of my like favourite DC movies. So it stars Margot Robbie and Ewan McGregor, and Margot Robbie is obviously Harley Quinn, and it's about Harley Quinn trying to retrieve a diamond for Ewan McGregor's character, who is like the bad guy, and the diamond has been swallowed by Cassandra Cain. So Harley Quinn is just a really fun character, and like it's really fun just watching like Margot Robbie just go for it. She like completely just done her best in this movie, and I really enjoyed that. Journey Smollett Bell was in this as Black Canary, and I'd never heard of her before, but she was really, really good. I really liked her, and I'm definitely going to watch out for her to see what else she's in, because I think she was like the standout character of this movie. The Cassandra Cain character was a little bit wasted. I watched a really good YouTube video. I tried to find it last night. I could not remember who it was by, but I'm going to try and find it again. I'll put it in the description. But it was basically about like fixing Birds of Prey and removing the Cassandra Cain character, because I'm not like a comic book person. I've never really read them, but I do know that she's like a really important character in the comic books, and because of what they've done with her in this movie, they can't really ever use her, not for a while anyway, unless they just completely ignore this movie. But I don't know. I just think that that character was kind of pointless, and more time could have been spent on, for example, Black Canary. And yeah, so the thing about this movie was obviously it didn't do as well as it should have, and I do think it's a large part because of the fact it was rated R. So I've seen a lot of people say that it was like because of the feminist angle and things like that. Personally, when I was watching it, never even really felt that. Like, it was, I don't know, I just didn't really get that argument. But I do think that the fact it was rated R was a big mistake. There was not that much like violence. Like, there was, but it was kind of like off screen. There was like one that was kind of disturbing, but it was off screen, and then like Harley Quinn breaks someone's legs at one point. But like, I just felt like it could have been, those bits could have been cut and the movie would be just as good. And obviously a more like, the target market could have been bigger, because a lot of like, teenagers and stuff couldn't see this movie because it was rated R. So I think that's their big mistake. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would probably watch it again. It definitely wasn't my favourite DC movie. I really love Aquaman, and I really enjoyed Batman vs Superman as well. I didn't really get the hate about that one, but yeah, overall I enjoyed it. The next movie that I seen was Parasite, and this was directed by Bong Joon-ho and was a South Korean movie, which was the first one of those I'd ever seen. I really want to see Train to Busan, I think it's called, which is like a zombie South Korean movie. That's been on like my to-watch list forever, but I don't really watch movies in the house. But anyway, so Parasite completely lived up to the hype. So it was the first non-English movie to win the Best Picture, I think it is, at the Oscars. and it's all about class inequality in South Korea, but it does kind of apply to the rest of the world as well. And I just thought it was absolutely amazing. I thought the whole cast was so good. The fact that there was subtitles didn't detract from the experience at all for me. If anything, I think it made it more interesting, and I think that reading the subtitles actually made you take in what was happening more than just listening. So when I watch Netflix, I actually do use subtitles as well. I don't know why, I just always have. I think it's kind of like helped me process what's going on faster, because obviously, I mean, I'm a booktube channel, like I do love to read, so I feel like I just process things better. But the fact it was subtitles, it didn't make any difference to the viewing experience for me, and I really enjoyed it. I really want to give a shout out to the house in this movie. Okay, the house was absolutely beautiful, and I looked it up after we left, and it was like a set custom built just for the movie, and it was like that house was like a character of its own. It was so nice. I was so shocked when I found it was just a set, but it kind of makes sense. But yeah, this movie was so good, and I 100% recommend it. And if you're kind of worried about the fact that subtitles, like, don't worry about it at all. It's so good, and the subtitles like really don't make a difference. Underwater is a sci-fi horror movie starring Kristen Stewart, and it's set in an underwater, obviously it's in the title, drilling site, and a large part of the site explodes and kind of collapses in on itself, and the survivors have to try and escape, but they're like really deep, like deep ocean underwater. So once they're like trying to escape, they realize that there's creatures out there that are attacking, and they start to obviously die, and it was so good. I thought this was going to be a much more smaller budget movie, but it was really good. The effects were amazing, the set was amazing, the cast was so good. Kristen Stewart was amazing. Like, I love her. I would watch her in like literally anything. There was so many like tense scenes with like little like small tight spaces and just like complete darkness, and it just worked really well. It was like genuinely anxiety like giving. I was actually genuinely scared at some points, which horror movies never really do that for me, and I just thought it was very much a case of a lot of things were off screen, like the creatures you don't really see for a while, but that just makes it better in my opinion. Like, see if it was just like huge CGI monsters, which you do see them at the end more, but by that point like it's starting to reach the climax, so it makes sense. But yeah, I just thought this was great, and it got very Lovecraftian at the end. I really want to read some H.P. Lovecraft stuff. I've got The Call of Cthulhu, I think that's how you say it, and like other short stories. I've got a collection of them, and I really want to read it, but this completely just like put me in the mood to read his stuff because it was so good. The ending was like, it blew me away. I was not expecting to love this as much as I did, but I'm really glad I watched it. Next, I went from Bella Swan to Edward Cullen with The Lighthouse, which was starring Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, and this is about two lighthouse keepers who are on the island with the lighthouse. They work there for 2 weeks at a time, and then they are about to leave. However, at the end of that 2 weeks, a huge storm happens, and they end up getting trapped on the island, and you never really find out how long they've been there. They think it's been a few days, they think it's been months. It's very psychological, and so they really descend into like complete madness, and by the end, like, it's just chaos. And I appreciated this movie, but I can't say I enjoyed it, if that makes sense. So I'm glad I've seen it, and both actors were like so good. Like, both of them like gave like really good performances, and they definitely deserve to be like recognized for that. But the actual movie, I can appreciate the filmmaking. So it's filmed in black and white, and it's filmed in like a smaller ratio like aspect, which was very unique and definitely like a unique viewing experience. And it was very artistically put together. Like, all the shots were really put together well. The script, like, I really struggled to understand what Willem Dafoe was saying at times, but like, the script was really strong and it was very unique. So I'm glad I watched it, but I would never watch it again. It's definitely like a one-time thing, and I think especially if you're watching it at home, I think you'd probably turn it off. Like, I'm glad I watched it in the cinema. I felt like it was a very strong contrast to Midsommar, which was the last A24 movie I've seen. So Midsommar was all about like lightness and like community, and like the horror was in like the fact it was daylight and there was all these people around, whereas this was a complete opposite. It was so dark the entire time. It was very isolating. Obviously there's just the two of them trapped on the island, and I thought they just contrasted each other really well, and it was like the ending was just a very A24 ending. Like, it made sense for like this kind of film. It also really reminded me of that Disneyland horror movie, the one that was like illegally filmed there, called Escape from Tomorrow, I think it's called. It It really reminded me of that. So if you've seen that and enjoyed it, you'll probably enjoy this. Although I think I enjoyed that more. I don't know. But yeah, glad I watched it, but would never watch it again. Sonic the Hedgehog was like my childhood game. My earliest memory of playing like video games is playing Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast. If you know what a Dreamcast is, like, please comment and tell me that I'm not the only one. Because whenever I speak to anyone in real life about a Dreamcast, everyone's like, "What is that?" But that was like my first like gaming like console. And then my favorite game on PS2 was like Sonic Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog. When Shadow the Hedgehog came out, I remember the controversy about that because it had guns. Like that game slapped. So obviously this movie was like a must see for me because Sonic was like a really big part of my childhood and I enjoyed it. So it follows Sonic, who has been secretly living in the real world for the last 10 years, I think it is. And then he causes like an electricity blackout. So the government become aware that there's like something there and they send Dr. Robotnik, aka Eggman, aka Jim Carrey, out to find him. So it was really fun and it was kind of exactly what you would expect from like a Sonic in the real world movie. James Marsden, I think that's his name, plays like his human friend, and it's very much, it's kind of along the same lines as like, you know, Peter Rabbit or like the Smurfs or like Alvin and the Chipmunks. It's kind of similar, but I think this one is much more mature and like less annoying than those. Although don't get me wrong, I love Alvin and the Chipmunks, and I do have a soft spot for the Smurfs as well. But Sonic was better. So Jim Carrey was amazing in this as well. He really just went for it, acting as like Dr. Eggman. He was really like one of the highlights of the movie. My only complaint is I wish there was like kind of more Easter eggs, because obviously, like I said, I was like a huge Sonic fan when I was younger, and I just wish there was like a little more like Easter egg things, and I wish we spent more time in Sonic's world, because that happens right at the very start and then you go into the real world, and Sonic's world is far more interesting than the real world. So the end credit scene was really fun as well, and I just really want a sequel now with like all Sonic's friends and Sonic's world, and like that will just be like my childhood dream come true. So if you haven't seen this movie, I do really recommend it. It's definitely, obviously it is aimed at kids, but there's like adult stuff as well. There's definitely things in there that kids won't understand, and yeah, it was just a really enjoyable, fun experience. Emma is a comedy drama kind of similar to David Copperfield, based on the Jane Austen novel of the same name, and I am not sure how to summarize this movie. It's basically about Emma trying to play matchmaker with her friends and then falling in love herself. I think that's pretty much how to summarize it. The characters were very like quirky and unique, very similar to David Copperfield. I don't know if this is just how, I've not really watched that many kind of like period movies, especially like this kind of comedy style as well. So I don't know if this is how they all are, but the characters were very like quirky and fun. Miranda Hart, I think that's her name, was in it. She was great, and the girl who played Emma as well, and her friend. All the cast were really good. I love the set design more than anything else. Like I talked about with the David Copperfield movie, I just love like this kind of setting with like the big grand old houses and like the costumes and that whole time period. Like I said, that's why I love classic books. I just love that kind of time period. But the actual storyline itself is very meh. I feel bad because I always say this with Jane Austen books, but like the stories are just never that interesting to me. I do want to love Jane Austen, but I just haven't found a story yet that's really like got to me, you know what I mean? I just find the topic of marriage kind of boring, and that's mostly what all of her books are about. So I don't know. If you're into like the period movies, then this one's really good, but I would never watch it again personally, I don't think, because I just didn't think the storyline was that intriguing. The final movie that I watched in February was Onward, and this is the latest Pixar movie, and I honestly do think it might be one of my favourites that they've like ever done. It's really up there with like Toy Story, like the first Finding Nemo. What else? I think those three are like my top movies from Pixar. So it's set in a fantasy world that's kind of lost its magic, and it follows two brothers who are trying to bring their dad back using magic that they've just kind of like discovered still exists. And they can bring him back for 24 hours. So this was so good. I didn't really have any expectations going in. I just went because I was like, oh, it's Pixar, like it'll be good. But I was like blown away by this movie. It was like so good. The world was really fun to explore. I love like a good fantasy world, and this was like urban fantasy, I guess. It was very much like fantasy creatures in like a modern setting, but It was so fun. And the ending, literally, my eyes were watery, and I was saying to myself, I was like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. It was like a really like good emotional ending. Please go see this movie because it definitely shows that Pixar like still has great stories. I feel like recently it's been like a lot of like sequels, like sequel, like Toy Story 4, Finding Dory, like even The Incredibles 2, and this just proves that they've got like a lot of like good stories left. I never seen Coco, to be honest. I feel like that's the most recent one. Before this, it's like an original story. I never actually seen that, but I heard it's really good as well. So I just wish they would keep doing these like original stories because the sequels are like very. It's like it's fun to see the characters again, but the plots are just never that good. Especially like Toy Story 4. I mean, come on, I love Toy Story. Toy Story 2 as well. Like they're so good. Toy Story 3 was like a good like return. It was like a good ending to the trilogy, but Toy Story 4 did not need to exist. I enjoyed it. Like don't get me wrong, I did enjoy it, but it didn't need to exist. But anyway, back on track with Onward. It was really good, very memorable. The characters were great, and overall, I was just really impressed by this movie. If you have seen any of these movies, please let me know your thoughts down below. Please go see Onward. I think it comes out in the UK on the 6th. I seen it at like a special preview, and it was just like, it was so good. Please go see it. Also, if you have not seen Sonic, go see Sonic as well. And yeah, like I said, let me know down below your thoughts on these movies, and if you enjoyed this video, please let me know because I would happily like make these every month. This was really fun for me to put together and just like kind of collect my thoughts on all the movies. So thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.